Hello and welcome to this week's Talking Codswallop. As ever, I am here. I am James, and we are going to be...
Excuse me, hold on. I'm back this week, so I'd like to have my comfy seat back. Thank you very much.
Well, some perfect things have to be ruined. As you probably guessed, Gemma has returned to co-host with me. Host. If I overstep the mark, I'll get in serious trouble and the beatings will begin once again.
Yes, actually, folks, I am back this week. Woohoo! And not only am I back, I brought a special guest with me. It is the wonderful... Oh, by the way, I'm Gemma, just in case anyone doesn't know who I am. But also, I brought a special guest with me, which is the amazing Lucy Caton. Way!
Hello! Yay! Welcome back, Gemma.
I was just unsure. Is it Caton or Caton? Which makes
Caton.
sense because I know it's Caton, but it's because the cats, we've been discussing wonderful, fluffy animals.
Wah, wah. Caton's actually a northern name. It's from Manchester, so Manchester. Northern people can say it correctly. Southern people can't.
I say it correctly.
Yeah, but that's because I've told you how to say it.
Years of drumming it into you, basically.
Yeah, because for ages I couldn't get your Twitter handle properly, could I?
Oh, God, yeah. I remember the first time I was on this podcast, it was like, no, this is how you actually say my name. This is how my handle is.
It's like, crap. So how has everyone been? I feel like I've been locked away in a cupboard eating fish heads for God knows how long. So I thought I'd throw back to the early days.
What sort of old wives' remedies do they have for COVID down in Weymouth? Oh, sit in a cupboard and eat fish heads.
Well, no, when James was off back in the real early days of recording with James, if he was off or he wasn't behaving or whatever, I would throw him in a cupboard and only feed him fish heads. So
that makes more sense.
I thought I'd do a little throwback there, but obviously it went over the top of even James's head, I think, as well.
No,
so
I got it. I got it. Don't worry. I had the flashback moment. To answer the question, how have I been? I have been doing my best to steer the ship through the choppy waters, codswallop fish, etc. See, all interlinks.
Yes,
all interlinks. It works perfectly.
You have done a fantastic job and I really do appreciate it. And anytime because I'm still suffering with symptoms of COVID, I'm still suffering with like the exhaustion side of things. And my brain keeps going. And I go,
no, I know.
I knew there was a sentence there somewhere.
Have you done the trick? And I had this where you will write numbers down wrong. So I was given numbers, someone was telling me numbers, and this is only a few months ago, and I'm writing them down incorrectly. I thankfully managed to catch myself. But yeah, I still have my going moments.
Yeah, I was going to say I kind of do that anyway because I'm dyslexic, so I hear in the wrong way, if that makes sense, with numbers. So that's why I have to, if people give me numbers, it needs to be in blocks of 3, but not really quickly, because otherwise it just goes over the top of my head. I don't hear the numbers. It's I completely blank out. So.
And anyway, Lucy, obviously you're glad you've been on the show. It's as a guest, you're really feeling you can bring a lot to the show this week as we sit and just discuss our health and various maladies impacting upon us. We are going to talk to you, I promise.
Yeah, I've had COVID and I didn't have all of these problems, fortunately. So you have my sympathies, but it's not a pleasant thing.
It isn't pleasant, no, not at all. But anyway, let's get to the real reason that we've got Lucy here. Lucy had involvement with the Commonwealth Games, and she was one of the bull chain women. And everybody in the world could see right up her nose at one point because she was on screen.
1 billion people, apparently.
Woohoo!
Nice claim to fame.
Yeah,
exactly. So this is the reason why, other than being a friend, you're the reason that you're here today, isn't it? To sort of discuss that.
Yeah.
And my reaction when I saw you on the telly, which was so funny because when I was watching, I was just because I was glued to the TV the whole 2 hours before you came on, and I was like, oh, I'm really bored. I don't want to watch it anymore. But I did. I persisted. When I saw you on the telly, I was like, oh my And I said it really loudly. Graham jumped out of his seat because he didn't know what was going on. Socks ran into the room and was like, Gemma, are you okay?
Wait, Socks speaks. That's an impressive skill. You should be selling.
Very clever dog.
Get him on the TV.
Yeah.
Get him on the podcast. Come on.
Exactly.
Never mind me. Get him on.
Well, actually, Lucy, I am here right now. I've got
It's not a Zoom filter. Oh my God.
If any medical people are listening, I think Gemma's had a stroke.
No, I'm not Gemma. I'm Mr. Socks. I've got a lisp. That's how you can identify me.
He's got this amazing filter on his camera that makes him look like Gemma, but he's actually Socks. That's really clever.
Nice.
So, Lucy, what was the involvement? How first of all did you get involved with it?
Yeah, so I first got involved back in, I think it was about February or March earlier this year. Mm-hmm. They had an announcement out for open auditions to be in the opening ceremony. And I put my name forward. And the reason I did that is because I had previously auditioned for London 2012 Olympics, and I had been offered a role in that. But as it turned out back then, I couldn't do it for various reasons. So I was already kind of familiar with the audition process, and actually it was quite interesting that some of the people from 2012 were involved in like coordinating the auditions this time round. Mm-hmm. And even more convenient was that the auditions were opposite where I live because they were at Edgbaston Cricket Ground. So I literally just had to just walk over the road to go to the audition. So we did these auditions, and they're basically kind of testing out what your skills are. So that they'd give you like a scenario, like imagine, you're pulling a heavy rope or you're stuck in mud, and like how would you move to that, or imagine you've got to like spin loads of times, and they just wanted to see like how flexible you are and kind of how coordinated you are. And then they did some like dance moves as well and this kind of stuff. It's about a 2-hour long audition. It was quite involved, and obviously they then took all our measurements for costumes and that kind of thing. And I didn't hear anything for about 2 months. And I started seeing on social media people being like, "Oh, I've got an email. I've been given a role in the opening ceremony, and I didn't get anything." And I was like, "Oh, well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it?" But then about a day later, I then got an email saying that I'd been put in we were given like secret codes for the names of the groups. So I was put in a group called BCH for the opening ceremony, and I was also invited to do the closing ceremony. But we didn't really know what those groups were until we went to our first rehearsal. And actually that code for that group meant bull chain handler, which became known as the bull women, because we were the women with the chains pulling the bull into the arena. Yes.
Can I ask, Lucy, I'm interested, where did you first find out about, because you mentioned there was an advert, and obviously you've been interested in the initially in the London Olympics, but where did the advert, for anyone who is looking for the future, where do you find the original, and how do you become aware of these things?
So I think I saw it. I had signed up because it was obviously Birmingham Commonwealth Games. I live in Birmingham. I'd signed up to the Commonwealth Games like Facebook page quite early on, and I think that's where I first saw the advert. But I also I work for the University of Birmingham, and they're one of the key sponsors of the Commonwealth Games, and they had also circulated information about auditions because they wanted staff to be involved in volunteering in any kind of form. So yeah, it was actually quite well advertised. I think it's just I think a few people also in my group were part of like dance groups or drama groups, choirs, that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of, if you're involved in performing arts, they were kind of targeting those groups as well, because obviously they want quite a diverse range of skills. It was an open audition.
I like the fact that you initially was saying like, flexibility, coordination. I've followed those hurdles straight away. So
do you know what the funniest thing was? So at the end of the audition, they had this like freestyle bit. So they got everyone in like a sort of semicircle, and they had a video camera at one end, like on just say it was like a sort of square, and they wanted you to go across the diagonal, and they said, just freestyle it, like show your personality, show us the best of you. Like that's like the worst thing for me, because I don't dance, I'm not very imaginative. So I channeled like David Brent, and I was doing it all the it was so cringe. Yeah, apparently that's what they were looking for. And the worst thing was that one of the women in my group, I told them this. They're like, "Oh my God, I remember you from the audition." I was like, in a good way or a bad way? Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, there was some people there who were doing like somersaults or like street dance or ballet and that, and there's me just like David Brent style, like.
You've got all the somersaulting people, the people you basically end up hating.
Yeah, I think the dancers were put in the dance group and I was put in the performance group.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but you obviously showed that you had character at least.
Yeah, I guess. That's very generous of you, Gemma.
Thank you. Well, we are friends and I am seeing you soon, so But no, it's true though. I mean, you did put on a performance, you did do a good job.
So it was the head of casting and the head of choreography that apparently were like choosing who was in what. So obviously they probably did have set things they were looking that people could do. Mm-hmm. So I guess that was what they were looking for.
Yeah.
And just refresh my memory, what was the time difference between you'd done the audition and finding out? Did you say you got an email?
Yeah, so the audition was, I think it was like maybe late February, early March. And then I got the email in about May time. So it was a couple of months. I mean, they were looking for like, I think 2,000 performers. So obviously there's a lot of auditions for them to go through.
It is so much. It's got to be such a hard job in a way, isn't it? Actually filtering it down to just that amount of people, because you imagine all of the applications that come through. But obviously David Brent, dancing is obviously something they were looking
Apparently
for.
So.
Oh, we'll have to do that demonstration, next time we go out or whatever. But what were the other people that you were with like? Were they a nice bunch of people?
Yeah, they were an amazing bunch of people. So there was 50 of us in our group, 49 women and one man.
Mm-hmm.
Which, so Harry was our token man. He was like, his role was kind of like the sort of master of all these sort of slave women.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone else, it was a really nice group because they were a huge sort of mixture of ages, demographic, ethnicity, all those kind of things. It was a huge range of people. And we literally just kind of got on from day one, because I remember the first audition, the first rehearsal we went to, we had all been told, our group is called BCH, ball chain handler. We didn't really know what that meant. Mm-hmm. So of course, you're sat in the waiting area, be like, what does that mean? And we kind of got it in our heads that our role was going to be that they were going to have, so the mascot for the Commonwealth Games was this multicolored bull called Perry.
Yeah.
And we had it in our heads that it was going to be a giant inflatable Perry, and we were going to be like holding the ropes as he goes around the arena. And it's totally like obviously not what we ended up doing. But the fact that we kind of bonded over the
I was going to say, I suppose it was very similar in some ways.
Well, it was a bull.
Yeah, and it was also
the only similarity. We weren't expected to have like fancy costumes. We just thought we were going to be like dressed in all black, holding some ropes, and everyone else is kind of getting all the glory.
Well, at least you didn't have to be one of the swimmers that was sitting around in the water for quite some time.
Yeah, so they apparently the water wasn't even like room temperature. It was like just normal cold tap water. Ooh. And I don't think the suits were like wet suits. They were just like obviously like dance suits. So they were quite chilly.
Yes, I can imagine that they would be, definitely. So,
but they're professional ballet dancers, so I guess it's kind of they were the ones that got paid, so to be expected.
Well, in that case, if they got paid, then they can suffer for their art, can't they?
Exactly.
To be fair, the very cold water would be motivational.
Yeah, you want to do your movements nice and quick to warm yourself up. We did have one rehearsal during the heat wave. I think it wasn't a dress rehearsal, but it was one of the weekends that it was like 30 odd degrees. I'm sure they were quite happy to be in the water for that, but the rest of us were sweating in our massive long skirts and that kind of thing.
Yeah. When you found out then that you were obviously one of the ball chain women, you sort of like over the moon with that, because it was a very, for anyone who didn't see it, which if you didn't see it, you're not one of the 1 billion people, but
I'm sure we can find a clip to put on your social media.
Absolutely. I'll let you choose it, because I kept taking pictures of you up your nose and stuff. So, but because it's quite a steampunk performance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, and I know that you kind of like the, you know, like alternative-y type stuff. So did you feel like that was a really good match for you kind of thing?
It was in the end, but the interesting thing was that we didn't really find out exactly what the scene would look like until we started rehearsing at the stadium.
Okay.
So we did a lot of our rehearsals down in Longbridge at one of the disused car plants because it's a massive brownfield open area. And we were actually rehearsing with like a crane instead of the bull. And they wouldn't really give us much clue of what the bull looked like. We saw a picture of it, but they were very cagey about actually what it looked like. So I think they just wanted to keep it a surprise for everyone.
Yeah.
So, and on the chains that we were rehearsing with, some of them were just like chains you could buy in like B&Q. Some of them were just rope. Some of them were the actual chains. So we didn't really get a sense of actually what the scene would look like until we were sort of doing the dress rehearsals and seeing ourselves in our costumes and the bull actually as he is and how it interacts with the scenes that come before and after.
Yeah.
So yeah, to begin with, it was just kind of like, okay, we do this bit and then we stand here and then we do this. You didn't get the impact of it until we did our first sort of dress rehearsal. And then we're like, okay, this is quite a big moment in the whole ceremony as a whole. Yeah.
It was definitely a dramatic piece. James, did you watch it? I'm going to put you on the spot now.
No.
Say yes.
I have to be honest, no, so I don't have a TV. So
it's on YouTube. I'll send you the link.
On YouTube then.
Yeah, the whole thing's on YouTube.
When it came to rehearsal, though, what was the most challenging part of that? Was there any of it that really, like, you're thinking, oh, dear God, sort of thing? What have I got myself into?
Yeah, I think for me, so I have done some, like, drama training and stuff. So for me, like, following directions isn't a challenge. But I think for some of the other people in my cast group, because we are all amateurs, you know, and most people had never done anything like this before. So I think for some people, actually being told to do something, being given notes, being given corrections, they struggle with that. And what you found quite a lot was we'd be told like how we're supposed to be in a scene. So for example, when the bull first kind of breaks his chains, we were originally told to be like really scared and we were supposed to be like calming the audience down and like saying, oh, it's okay. And then when the director came to watch us, he then was like, actually, this doesn't work. He's like, no, what I actually want is when the chains break, you're being released from your slavery and you're kind of bold and emboldened by that. And I think some people really struggle with that whole change of approach. Whereas I think because I'm kind of used to that, I didn't find it so difficult. But there were some people who 3 or 4 rehearsals later were still doing this, oh, you know, calm down. And it's like, no, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be like strong and bold. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge, was for the creators to remember that all the cast, apart from like the ballet dancers and that, majority of the cast were complete amateurs and aren't used to that kind of direction and those things like corrections and notes and that kind of stuff.
Sorry, I thought James was going to respond.
And then there was silence.
No, I was waiting.
Stunned into silence
for Gemma to say something.
Okay, well, there you go. See, right, clearly lots of edits this episode.
Especially the part where it becomes whether I've not seen it. Just
yeah. So yes, yeah. The link. Like, oh yes, I really enjoyed that bit. Just pretend you've seen it.
This is the part you insert. I saw it. It was absolutely wonderful and it was inspiring as well.
Yeah.
And we feel very, very, very impressed by what was pulled together for the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, Gemma, you can add that bit in.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, James. I mean, without even seeing it, you summed it up in a, you know, I mean, seeing it, you know, let's move on. But so when was the first time that you actually saw the bull for the first time?
So the first time, well, I didn't see the bull with the rest of the group because I had COVID that week.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, actually, if I was going to catch COVID, I caught it at the best time because we had a week. So we had been rehearsing down in Longbridge at the old MG plant, and they then had to move everything over to Alexander Stadium for the dress rehearsals. Mm-hmm. And they had a week to do that. So we had a week's gap, whereas we had been rehearsing like 2 days a week. And that was the week I got COVID. So I was really, really lucky, actually, that the week that I had COVID, I wasn't really missing anything. But I was still testing negative on the Saturday. So I was like, I can't go. Then on the Sunday, I was negative and I was fine. Yeah. So I went and actually I was a little bit disappointed for the reveal because when I got there, he was just sort of stood in the middle of the arena And I was like, oh, is that him? They're like, oh yeah. Whereas the rest of the group, they'd hidden him away and they'd brought them round and filmed their reaction. So yeah, I'd missed out on that. But I mean, he was still hugely impressive. But yeah, it wasn't quite as dramatic as the rest of the group.
No, that is a shame though. And yeah, well, I was going to say, what relevance does the bull have to Birmingham? Because I know that there is a lot of relevance, but I'm not really sure what it is. So
yeah, so the bull is, so you obviously know there's the Bull Ring shopping centre. Now, years ago, the reason the Bull Ring is called the Bull Ring is because it used to be a market where they would sell bulls.
Ah, okay.
So the bull is like the symbolic animal of Birmingham, and when you go to the Bull Ring, there's like a sort of metal brass bull that's like the sort of mascot of the shopping centre. And then the games itself, they had Perry the Bull, who was like the colourful mascot. So yeah, the bull's kind of the unofficial animal of Birmingham.
Yeah, I think a child designed that bull, didn't they?
She did.
Yeah, which was it was actually quite good. So they obviously did quite a good job.
Yeah, definitely.
Most children would be like, no.
Well, you wonder if there was a bit of help from the marketing department, perhaps, but
yes, or mummy and daddy,
mum and dad. Maybe mum and dad's a brand ambassador or something.
Yeah, absolutely. But so that is, that's actually quite interesting to sort of know what the history of that is, because I didn't realize that actually was a proper, like you said, a market to actually sell the bulls and stuff like that. So yeah, and
I think also so as I've been told is that one of the other reasons is because the bulls are kind of in chains and basically are like enslaved, and the women themselves were making chains for the slave trade, and therefore they're a representative of this kind of slavery that is affecting the bulls and people of that time. There's a whole like dramatic explanation for it that I don't really understand, but several layers of meaning.
And was your bit directed by the guys involved with Peaky Blinders?
No.
Oh, okay.
Stephen Knight, I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think Stephen Knight had a lot of involvement with the opening ceremony. The martial costumes were sort of Peaky Blinders themed.
Yeah.
The closing ceremony had a bit of a Peaky Blinders theme to it, but we never saw him. So our scene and most of the scenes were directed by someone called Iqbal Khan, who is the artistic director of the Birmingham Rep, which is our main theatre in Birmingham. And him and a lady called Maeve wrote our scene and were the ones who were on physically there watching us, giving us notes, that kind of thing. We never saw Stephen Knight. And I think his name was attached to it to give it that kind of attention because everyone loves Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, and obviously being in Birmingham as well. So it was obviously,
so he had to kind of be involved. But no, I never saw him. He was there. He was there at the opening ceremony. He was there at the closing ceremony. But we never saw him actually like giving people notes or watching the rehearsals or that kind of stuff.
Well, that's a shame in some ways, isn't it? But at the same time, I suppose, I suppose he just lended his name and it was just
and he's a film and TV director. He's not a theatre director. It's a theatrical piece, so it actually would have been unusual, I think, from a professional point of view, to have him there because it's not his kind of area of expertise. Whereas we had choreographers and theatre directors kind of directing us, which is what we needed.
Yeah. Question I have, Lucy, is obviously you've been through all the rehearsal, you've seen the bull and whatnot. So it comes to the big day, the event itself. How do you get past the nerves? How did you get into it? Because obviously you can have the sweaty palms. Because me personally, I have the sweaty palms and Gemma, because there is audio, and video, Gemma is casting aspersions that Lucy was drinking heavily to get through this problem. I doubt that is the case.
Not allowed.
Just projecting. So Lucy, what did you do?
I actually wasn't that nervous. The reason I wasn't nervous, and sorry, Bertie's just causing chaos here.
Yeah, Bertie's the cat, just so you know.
Bertie's the cat, you can edit that bit. He's just decided to start knocking things over because he wants attention.
That's fine.
So the reason I wasn't nervous is because we had earpieces in our ears, which were taped in, and we had somebody telling us basically what to do.
Okay.
So when we're pulling the bull on, we weren't having to remember how many steps. They were telling us like 1, 2, like pacing how fast we were supposed to go. telling us like when the chains were going to break, telling us like when to get onto the main stage, because there's certain bits, because of like health and safety, we had to keep a certain distance from the bull because he's actually like a vehicle basically. But so we had someone telling us all that. So as long as you had the earpieces working and you knew where you were supposed to be standing for certain bits, you didn't really have to actually remember anything. And for me, nerves always come from forgetting to do something or forgetting where I'm supposed to be standing. So I didn't have to kind of worry about that. Also, it helped that I was number 26 out of like 49. So I was right in the middle. So any scene we did, I just had to remember to be in the middle. So yeah, I didn't really have to worry about remembering things. And it was actually strange. Like, I was on autopilot for a lot of it. And there was one bit where, so halfway through the scene, that I was sat on the floor and the bull's like crying blood because he's basically dying. Aww. And that's when it hit me that it was like, oh my God, I'm actually like on the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games and there's all these people watching. This is really weird. But up till then, I've just been kind of like, yeah, in the zone.
Yeah, it's completely zoned it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to be completely honest. And but also probably helps us because if I remember rightly, you said that when you had your rehearsal, sorry, not reversal, you reversed back.
Back.
Yeah, so when you had your rehearsal, you weren't being filmed, were you?
So yeah, so we had 2 dress rehearsals where the BBC's cameras were there, and obviously they have to line up if they are going to use that shot, like line it up and that.
Yeah. And
the camera had been there, but it hadn't been pointing in my face. It had just been kind of filming in between my lines. So I wasn't really expecting them to zoom in on me. And actually the bit that they did film was the one bit I was a bit nervous about because I had to pretend to fall down and then I had to be able to get up quickly and then run to the front.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of like a fake fall. Which I kind of didn't really want to be filmed, but yeah, it didn't go as badly as I thought.
I was going to say it looked brilliant. You know, you didn't.
Yeah, because everyone else could literally like fall to the ground, or I had to kind of fake fall so I could get up quickly and then run round.
Yeah,
I think it went okay.
It didn't look out of. Sorry, it's just because it didn't look out of place on there.
Good.
So yeah, that's good. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a friend. I'm literally saying that because it didn't look out.
No,
I've
watched it back and I'm like, it looks quite normal.
Yeah.
Now, sorry, James. It's interesting to hear that you actually given earpieces. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense. And I'll just spare a thought for the poor person whose earpiece probably fell.
Oh, he was an amazing, it's a guy called Chris. He's also a dancer / choreographer / amazingly talented person. And yeah, he was our in-ear piece. But he had the most like amazing, soothing, calming voice. He was just so calm the whole way through. So you actually felt relaxed when he'd be like, okay, bull women, and now we're going to do scene number, blah, blah, blah. And you just felt like, oh yeah, it's all fine. Chris is in our ears and he's going to talk us through it and it's all fine.
And also because I think what James was saying as well was the fact that, you know, you felt sorry for the one person whose earbud didn't actually work.
Imagine the one person who's picking up a signal from elsewhere.
Yeah.
So there was,
like
I think it was one of our second dress rehearsal, somebody's earpiece didn't work. So she was having to kind of watch the rest of us because there's some bits where we had to do like hand movements. So she was having to watch the rest of us like for the cues. It was I guess that was one of the and also the radio mics were right under our skirts. So it's not like if you say you accidentally pulled out the earpiece or something, you couldn't just quickly plug it back in because it's like under several layers of skirt.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that didn't affect me.
Seems like a very inappropriate place to have a microphone, doesn't it?
Well, you couldn't have it seen, so they don't want to reveal the magic, do they? So you couldn't have it visible.
No, exactly. But it still does also make it sound a bit funny as well.
We in our dressing room, you know, we saw each other in many states of undress. You know, you get to know people quite well when you're putting on several layers of costume and plugging in each other's microphones and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and also like with the crazy hair that you all had as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I had a wig, it was like a ponytail wig. So they put my hair in because my hair it was a bit longer back then, but it's not that long. So they put it in like a high ponytail. And then clipped this hairpiece to it, and they just like messed it up. And yeah, I went out to walkabout afterwards, fully costumed with my hair all crazy. So, yeah.
Good for you. That's what I say. Good for you.
Never going to wear that again. So why not make the most of it?
No. And at least it wasn't your own hair, because I can imagine how painful that would have been if you'd had to have tried to brush that out of your own hair.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it was still quite bad. So I took the hairpiece out on each rehearsal and then the performance itself. And then they caked it in hairspray because obviously they needed it to stay in place. And trying to brush out that hairspray, it was just, it was awful.
Yeah, definitely. It's nothing worse. I know James knows because he's got a wonderful head of hair himself.
I don't use hairspray, but I can recognise the pain of dealing with it.
He says he doesn't use hairspray, but we don't really know for sure.
I mean, it is perfectly up like that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's very on point.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly comment. Can't give my skills away, can I?
No. I mean, one day you might, but
possibly.
Yeah.
That's a special episode.
The rumours of the wooden teeth will also they may be explained as well, but who knows? It's one for the future. That's for the After Dark episodes.
After Dark. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I definitely am still convinced that those are dentures. So he takes them out at night. It always used to be because it's
out this off.
Yeah. It always used to be because in the early days you'd always have like a bit of a whistle when he talked, and it was like I'd always just like associate that with
false teeth.
The false teeth. Oh, it's a good job you're a friend, Lucy, so that we can have the silly banter at the same time.
I'm sure James is of the same opinion. Like, these people gang up on me.
One of the other questions that I was thinking of as well was, because obviously you had your performance and then you were all stood around the bull, and then for ages you were all like clapping and stuff like this, and your arms are up in the air. How did your arms feel by the end of all of that? Because it looked like it would probably be painful.
Yeah, so we had a different person in our ears, a guy called Nathan, who's an amazing Australian choreographer, doing the whole, move this way, to clap your hands and that. And he's like, you won't have any bingo wings after this. Which was true, because we were doing, but you learn some techniques to make it look like you're clapping. Yeah. So it looks like you're doing a forceful clap, but you're actually not. So there's kind of different techniques you could learn to make it look like you're doing the moves properly, but you're not really doing them. Because the one we always found the hardest was the We Will Rock You when England came out.
Yeah.
Because that was like 2 minutes. They told us it's 30 minutes of like clap, clap, point. It felt like 30 minutes. It was like, This is not 30 seconds. And then we had to do air guitar for like another minute. But yeah, I think also what helps is the adrenaline. Like when you're actually there and you've got an audience watching you and you've got these athletes around you, that kind of like, you want to give them a good show. So you kind of, it drives you through that slight ache and pain. But I'm not looking to do any arm movements or We Will Rock You clapping anytime soon.
Oh, I was just going to break into song. We will rock you.
I was thinking you actually were almost mind reading me then, Lucy. I was going to ask, because when you got through it all and finished it, how do you handle the massive drop in adrenaline?
You go to walkabout till 4 a.m. That's how you cope with it. Yeah, we were all on such a high that there was no way you could go home and go to bed. It was just impossible. I mean, it took us probably about an hour to kind of get out of the stadium after the ceremony, because obviously we had to let all the spectators leave. We had some stuff we had to hand back certain bits of our costumes, and we had to kind of sort out our own like personal belongings and stuff. So we didn't get out until after an hour. But yeah, you're on such a high, and I think because it went well, you really want to keep that buzz. So a few of us went out and we had a cast after party, so that was a really nice way to sort of commemorate it. And actually when we got to walkabout, they had the ceremony on the big screens. They didn't have the sound on, but they just had the actual images playing, so we could watch ourselves back, which was really cool because none of us had seen it. So
so
that
people
was awesome.
Yeah, people were looking at you going, oh, I noticed that hair. Oh, that was you.
Well, that was the funny thing, because obviously, I think I said to you, James, separately, like I wasn't expecting to be on TV at all. I thought, I might get the odd glimpse or something in a group shot. And I got on the bus going back into town, and because there was no phone signal in the stadium because there's so many people.
Yeah.
My WhatsApp just started like blowing up, and I was like, my work chat was going, and like you were messaging me, and my parents were messaging me. I was like, what on earth? And there was people sending me screenshots of me on telly, and I was like, oh my god, like what happened? And then when we got to walkabout and they were showing the ceremony, I was like, oh my god, that's me. So I actually saw the whole scene. I was like, oh my god, that's me. Like, this is crazy. Right up my nose.
Did you get to take anything as a memento? Or should I ask, did you take anything?
Yeah, I got my costume. So I got the skirts, the wig, the shoes, everything. They say basically, so they've put some of their costumes on the auction site. I don't know why, because they told us they were going to give them to like community groups and like local theatres, but apparently that's not happened. So yeah, I got my costume from the opening ceremony and I got my costume from the closing ceremony. And then they gave us, which was really nice, like these commemorative programmes, which had our names in them. So they had like listed the whole cast, and they had like pictures from throughout all the different scenes and kind of explained what all the scenes were. So that was a really nice memento.
Yeah, that's really lovely.
Yeah.
Put it on eBay.
No, maybe in like, a few years' time if I'm poor.
Yeah.
No, they're really nice things to keep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just give it a little signature. This is me.
Me from,
But no, it is always nice to keep things like that, at least.
Yeah, and I like things that are quite small and don't take up too much space, which is why, whilst I did take the costume and I was happy to take it, I'm also now a bit like, right, what do I do with this? Because the skirt is massive, and it's like you can't just fold it all up and put it in like a little carry-on suitcase. It's like a big skirt or two big skirts and the shoes and all that. So I need to have a bit of think about where I'm going to store it.
Yeah, I wonder if, and I'm going to be all practical for a minute, and I know it's really bizarre, but I wonder if you can get those bags that you can like get the Hoover and make them like really
bags.
tiny.
Yeah, that's true. I could get that. One of my fellow bullwomen had got a what they call those mannequins, you dressmaker mannequin, and she'd put the costume on that, and it's like that looks really cool, but also like really, really creepy because it's like headless woman just standing in your living room.
You can always get like a famous person mask to put over the top. Yeah. I have one of Kevin Smith. I can bring it to you if you want.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Obviously, that was amazing. I didn't watch the closing ceremony. So what
Not
was
even Ozzy? Oh my God.
I didn't realise that he was on there. So you're going to have to send me a link to that.
Yeah, I will do.
Yeah. But how was the closing ceremony?
So the closing ceremony was completely different because we were just marshals for that. And by marshals, it's not like, showing you to your seats. It's just on the kind of main field. We literally just formed like a human barrier between groups of athletes. Mm-hmm. And we did have to do some of that whole dancing and coordinated stuff. But we were basically there just to, what they wanted was, they had about 1,500 athletes that turned up to the closing ceremony. And they just wanted to keep them in specific groups so that it just looked a bit better on camera. Yeah. So our role was just to kind of try and stop them going to a different group. But at the end of the day, it's like they're there to celebrate. So we're not really going to stop them if it's not necessary. So yeah, I just got to stand there and basically enjoy the closing ceremony.
Yeah, and how was Ozzy? Now that you're talking about Ozzy,
it was amazing. So we had done one dress rehearsal a few days before, and there was no indication that there was going to be an appearance from Black Sabbath. They did the handover bit to Australia's performance, and then we were told in our ears like, that's it, let's do the bit where we're saying goodbye to the athletes. There was no indication that anything else was going to happen. And then in the actual ceremony, well, during the day, it was quite interesting. So because you have to get to the stadium about like 6 hours beforehand, just because they want you to make sure you're there so they can get you like costume and hair and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And at some point that afternoon, we had to do like a walkthrough of where we had to go because we hadn't actually rehearsed in the stadium. We'd only rehearsed at the rehearsal space in Longbridge. So we all put our headphones in and they're playing Paranoid. And I'm like, why are they playing Black Sabbath? That's a bit weird. And they don't just play music just for like testing the sound. They only play music when they actually need to. So everyone was a bit like, what's happening here? And So that was our first clue. And then later on that afternoon, somebody had said they'd seen Sharon Osbourne. And we were like, yeah, but have they though? Are they just winding us up?
Yeah.
And then someone else had said they'd seen the Spice Girls. So that's where we were like, okay, you are just winding us up now. Because there was a rumour there was going to be a special finale. So, of course, we all kind of assumed it might be Black Sabbath. But then the people were like, oh, no, it's the Spice Girls. We're like, well, the Spice Girls have nothing to do with Birmingham. None of them are from Birmingham. So it's not going to be them.
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking. Yeah.
The silly rumours then just started. So then you don't believe anybody. Because then someone else said that they'd seen Ozzy. And it was like, never have you. No. Yeah. So it was during the ceremony, it was when Prince Edward was doing his speech. I noticed the drum kit had appeared on like the centre stage, and I was like, wonder what this is for. And then, but it wasn't until Ozzy actually kind of rose up from the stage and actually appeared that I believed he was there. Like up until then, you're just like, oh my god, if it is, it's amazing. But yeah, until you see him, you just don't believe it's going to happen.
No, and it's kind of going by the last time that I saw Ozzy Osbourne. So he was actually playing. It was like a solo gig, but obviously he had a band behind him and whatnot. But the last time I saw him, it was kind of bittersweet because it was like, oh my god, that's Ozzy Osbourne. But then it was also like, that's a really old, frail man, Yeah. And so it's really sad in some ways, but he still got it a little bit.
Well, that's why none of us kind of thought it was going to happen. So we were told that for the opening ceremony that they had wanted him to appear, and they were told like he's got, I think he's got Parkinson's or he's had a stroke or something. So he's really not well, and he lives in LA. So it's just too much. So actually what we did do is we, as bull women, we were allowed to name the bull. So we called the bull Ozzy because we were like, it's icon of Birmingham. That's the fitting name. And actually at the end of the opening ceremony, we were told that Ozzy Osbourne's oldest son from his first marriage was there and was told that we'd called the bull Ozzy, and he's like, oh, I'll tell my dad, he'll love it, And apparently he'd watched the opening ceremony, and I think he'd seen, is it Tommy Iommi?
Iommi,
he's the guitarist.
Or
he'd
Tony
seen him,
Iommi, I think.
Tommy, I can't remember.
I'm going to have to Google it while you're talking.
Google it, yeah.
Yeah, because
so he'd seen the opening ceremony, he'd seen him perform and was just like, oh, I wish I could take part. And I imagine there's probably like an open invitation for him to come over and be part of it. Yeah. And I think that's what kind of made him think, yeah, do you know what? This is a once in a lifetime thing. I'm going to do it. And apparently also afterwards, Sharon Osbourne was saying to people like, I've never seen him move like this. It's like he's 20 years younger. It's amazing, because obviously he was so like rejuvenated by just doing 3-minute song on stage and having everyone cheering for him.
Yeah, and being home as well, I suppose.
Yeah, he's from Aston, which is like 3 miles down the road. So yeah.
And it is just so that we know, it is Tony Iommi.
It's Tony.
So, yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right.
You'll edit that in perfectly, Gemma. It'll be seamless.
Well, no, I think that imperfections are beautiful, actually, James. So, sometimes Google needs to be our friend. But we got the last name right. We just got the first name wrong. We just thought he was Tommy.
Funny, because I thought the last name I wouldn't be able to pronounce, but there we
go. So, oh God, that sounds absolutely amazing. Did you get like not free tickets, but tickets to like go and see any of the what they called
event,
races and stuff like that?
No. So they didn't give us anything free. No.
Oh, bastards.
No, I'd actually, before I'd got the part, I had they had like a ballot for tickets, and I'd actually got quite a lot of stuff through there. So I went to, because I think I mentioned before, I live opposite Edgbaston Stadium, so I went to the cricket like 3 times, and then we also had one of my favourite events was we had the marathon, and it went like sort of past my flat and then around the park next to my flat and then back into town. So that was really awesome because we kind of got to see each athlete like 4 times.
Yeah, and
it was a really good atmosphere. So sort of further down the road from where I live, we had like a load of Welsh people obviously cheering on the Welsh athletes, and it was just a really good atmosphere. It was like a Saturday morning, it was quite early, but and it was free. So but yeah, it was a really good. And then I went to the athletics at the Alexander Stadium, and I went to the volleyball final, which was bizarre because it was just like they're just trying to create atmosphere, and I'm not into wacky, so all this kind of like wacky music and trying to do Mexican waves and having like people dancing while they're raking in the sand, I was just not into. I was just like, no, can we get on with the volleyball, please?
Yeah. Sorry, it sounded like James, were you trying to say something then, or no? Okay.
No,
his headphones have finally given up the ghost.
I'm just enjoying the thing. If the headphones go, I'll be like,
it's just like,
Well, yeah, I can't remember if we said this while we were recording or not, but in true James's fashion, you know, he thinks, oh, Gemma's back. So, you know, it's all good.
Yeah.
I don't have to prepare or anything now. Yeah. I can sit back and just relax.
It's all right. This coming from the person who didn't turn up for about 10 minutes and then went, I'm just going to go for it when they finally get it working.
Yeah, to be fair, I as a guest, I was here first and then I had 5 minutes of Gemma's thing connecting.
I mean, guys, just remember who does the editing. But no, that all happened. But what I was going to say was that James decided.
If you're editing Gemma, I'll just sort of say what will happen is revenge will be that every time it comes to me, there'll just be silence.
There was anyway. No, but what I was going to say was very quickly is that James actually, even though I messaged him this morning, decided not to charge his headset. So he's only been on 20%.
Epic fail.
It's still going.
It's still going. Yeah. It's not an MPAL headset.
All you'll know when it complete fails is that'll be like that.
So obviously, Lucy, you've had this amazing experience now, and I bet life just feels really boring now, doesn't it?
Oh God, it's so boring. Like so for rehearsals, so I was rehearsing minimum of twice a week, plus there were days where it was like all day, either Saturday or Sunday. So basically like 2 or 3 days a week. And you know, being surrounded by very creative, talented people. And now I'm back to reality and I'm like, what do I do with myself now?
Lucy, I'll just help you out here. What Gemma was doing was trying to feed you there, saying that, you know, the response should have been, yes, I've gone from this amazing thing, but I'm still traveling high up that mountain by being on Talking Codsword.
Well,
once
again, surrounded by hugely talented, creative people. You know, this is a small taste of what I had recently experienced at the Commonwealth Games.
Hold on, small taste?
Small as in this is only like an hour or 2 hours. That's in terms of time length. Not in terms of creativity.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yes, we can still be friends. Well, actually, I was going to say, when this episode comes out, me and you yesterday would have gone to the Taylor Hawkins tribute show.
We will have done, and it was amazing.
It was utterly amazing, wasn't it? I can't believe that thing happened. I know. Can you believe that thing happened?
And Gemma, that bit when they pulled you up on stage and got you to sing Everlong, that was just amazing. I was so proud of you.
How I kept that so secret, I don't know.
I know, I mean, talk about surprises, considering we were sat right at the back as well, and they got you all the way to the front that quickly, crowd surfing.
Yeah, up in the nosebleeds, but at least we're going to be there. It doesn't matter, does it?
And we get to sit down. That's an important thing up to our age. I'm having a seat.
Might bring a cushion. Yeah, and then actually the following day, today this episode comes out. Oh, there's a cat in the background again.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
here in a second. Okay.
Little monkey. I'm going to actually, well, unless he changes his mind, but I'm actually going to be meeting Andy for the first time on today. Not on Sunday, today. So yeah. So hi, Andy, if you're listening.
Doubtful.
No, definitely. So yeah, because obviously you're going to be staying in Reading. Well, not Reading, but
no, you're staying in Deep Cart. That's like, it's near Reading, but
yeah, in Surrey. So it's close enough.
Reading's not in Surrey. Reading's in Berkshire.
Oh, sod off. Not you, but you know, anyone who thinks that, you know, sod it. It's all good. So yeah, I think we need to get ready to get partying now.
Definitely.
Well, James, have you got any other questions at all?
Oh, I can think of. I think you pretty much exhausted what I was going to ask, Lucy. I mean, you did do the mind reading trick and the adrenaline stuff. So, yeah, I think we've covered all bases, really. Well, actually, I will ask this. You've obviously done all that. You've hit the heights of doing that. You've hit the other exceptional heights of being on the show. What are your future plans? Would you want to be on something else? Are you going to want to do something for akin to what you've done with the Commonwealth Games in the future?
Oh, I would love to, but yeah, I've never gone down that route of performing. I did a year at Guildford School of Acting many years ago, and that was my little taster of performing. But no, I'm back to being a project manager at the University of Birmingham and back to reality. But you never know, there might be some other. I think actually, in all seriousness, one of the things it has shown, certainly the creative people involved, is that there is this sort of breadth of people in Birmingham who are very, willing participants in these kind of things. So it might be that there's scope for doing stuff in future, but certainly not in any kind of serious level. It'll always be a hobby.
Yeah, and I suppose it showed all the different cultures of Birmingham as well, didn't it? Because there are so many different cultures there. So
yeah, definitely. I think that's what they wanted to show, was that there's this breadth of diversity in the city, not just ethnicities, but abilities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, which is really good. And yeah, I think they did well. Yeah, obviously, like I said, I didn't see the closing ceremony, but I did see the opening one, and I saw it all the way through. So because of you. But, I mean, to be fair, if you hadn't been on it, I wouldn't have watched it. I'm not going to lie. But
don't tell me that.
Well, no, I don't mean in the sense that if you hadn't been on the actual TV or whatever. Yeah. But if I didn't know that you were performing in it, I wouldn't have watched the whole thing. But it was so good. It was such a good event, and you should be really proud of yourself. So well done.
Thank you.
I'll clap very gently, because otherwise Mr. Socks will clap. Mr. Socks will clap.
Oh my God, this dog can talk. He can clap.
And he claps.
Why is he not on the podcast? This is crazy.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we haven't done that I think we should end the episode with, which is, has anyone got any codswallop this week? Because it's been so positive. Let's bring it down.
Drag it down to the depths.
Yeah.
The briny deep. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, I'm afraid.
Shall I go first? Because I always have.
I noticed that Gemma's asking, when I think what it is the
rhetorical
rage.
question.
It is the rage that Gemma has every week. She's like the Incredible Hulk melded with the She-Hulk. She wants to get the rage out. So, Gemma, what's vexed you this week?
Well, I'm not sure if it actually bothers the both of you, because, I know, James, you live alone. I mean, the help are all, I'm assuming downstairs, and they've got their own facilities, so, you don't have this issue. And Lucy, obviously, you've got your fella who's not with you all the time. So, it's possibly not the case for, everything. But when you live with someone and they leave just one tiny piece of paper on the toilet roll, and it happens all the time in my house, and it always happens to me. And it's just one of those things that's really annoying. So I thought I'd bring it up. Yeah.
I have a storage box next to my toilet where I keep the spare toilet rolls, so don't have that problem.
I was going to ask, is there not any way that you can have somewhere that you store them?
Well, we do. We do have them stored in the cupboard, but that's only if everybody's remembered to restock them. So, it's all right, I think, in a way, when you live on your own, you know that you've done it. Or if you haven't done it, then it's like, hey, you have to do the waddle of shame. But yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, I'm like, oh, for God's sake. Or just the toilet rolls there, and it's like, are you serious? So anyway, there's my first world problems. So Lucy, have you got any codswallop this week?
No, not this week. So my boss is on holiday this week.
Okay.
So it's been codswallop free. Yeah. It was codswallopy before he went on leave, but now it's all calmed down.
Oh, that's all right then. I'm sure we love you, boss. If you're listening.
Oh my God, he will not be listening.
Okay,
I will not be telling work people about this. I don't need them to know my personality.
I'm
I'm a soulless robot at work, and that's how it will remain.
Well, you've got a lovely personality, and I appreciate the fact that I know it and that I don't know the soulless robot. Well, in that case, then, James and Lucy, I think that we've been talking enough codswallop this week. I have been Gemma.
As ever have been James.
And Lucy.
Oh, I have been Lucy.
You have been Lucy. Woohoo! Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming on.